Good. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah, it's been a weird couple weeks, but hanging in there.
Yeah. So, Chris or Christopher? What do you prefer?
Christopher, technically.
Christopher. Yeah.
Just
Okay.
professionally, I like to keep it consistent, but I don't really care.
Cool. So, why isn't it Christopher William then, not just Christopher Bill? Right?
Christopher,
See?
yeah, get the whole thing in there.
So, Christopher, welcome to my podcast.
But that-
You know, the first time I saw you, it was a video of Happy.
Sure. Yeah.
And
that's
it
a lot of
was,
people's taste.
and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, no, no. Whoa, this is way too cool, man. Because, and so for the listeners, what's happening is it's you're looping things. You're laying down the rhythm and some bass harmony or bass line and some harmony and the melody. But man, that was really fun. And of course, what made it so fun was it was flawless. It was seamless. It was like, okay, so my question is, how many takes did it get to get that one down?
Every time I tell the story, it gets longer, but it was so as the story goes, and I don't know how much of this is true because I've said it.
Wait, you were there, right?
I was there, but the stories just get more and more elaborate as you go. I believe I started at 7 p.m. and the take that you saw was 7 a.m. So,
All right.
But that one was interesting because I had a pretty good framework of what I was trying to do. I was doing it on software, not looping pedals, so I was using Ableton and queuing different things on that, and that was overly complicated. So, most of the takes that were screwed up were like I pressed a button wrong or something. Watching the video back, it's funny because I really only needed to press like 4 buttons on my computer 5 times throughout the video.
Right.
And you see me press maybe 16 or 17 times, and that's because I kept missing. And so it's just like, oh, missed it again. So, stuff like that. And of course, the performance gets better as it goes on. What's great about that is, the secret of editing is recording to software meant everything was isolated. So, missing notes and things, like I can always go back and punch in and stuff. So that wasn't as much of a problem, but the pacing and everything really had to be right. And it was, believe it was 12 hours of trial and error.
Wow. So, I want to talk more about the electronics and
Sure.
all that. But first and foremost, you're a terrific musician.
I suppose it's on the list.
Yeah, well,
I would
you
say
are.
I'm a better arranger, better editor, better marketer. But yeah, I went to school for classical music. It's there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about that. Where'd you go to school and what was the intent?
Yeah, so I went to school at the Purchase Conservatory, state school in New York, and studied with Weston Sprott, the Met Opera, among so many other great trombone teachers who it was kind of this revolving door, for better or for worse, of great trombone teachers. There was Weston Sprott, there was Paul Pollard, we had, the teacher I ended up with was Tim Albright, of Atlantic Brass Quintet and all sorts of. He played on Broadway in the West Side Story revival, and he's played with all sorts of, like Steve Lehman, like all these great contemporary jazz, like everything. Brass Quintet, Broadway, classical, jazz, and so that was a really, really great spot for me. Ended up with him, but the intent was. At the time, to get into a major orchestra, that's what that program was designed to do. And from the moment I got there, I knew I didn't want to do that.
What was it that changed your mind?
Honestly, I think the passion of the people around me. I saw what it would take, and I saw how excited the other musicians around me were for that path, and I knew I was not doing that. They were listening to all of this rep and practicing all this rep and being really excited about the orchestral auditions and all of this and their excerpts, and I was just not you know, they'd be like, "Oh, have you heard this Mahler?" I'm like, "No, not really." "Oh, you have to." And I'd listen. It wasn't, I wasn't as passionate about it. And so I loved it, but I wasn't passionate like that. And I would say now, looking back now, having an appreciation for it, I'm more passionate about it now than I was then. But yeah, at the time it was just not what I was really trying to do, but I didn't know what I was trying to do. So then I started kind of swiveling around, and there was a moment where I was actually going to give up trombone completely, and you know, still play, I'm sure, but I was going to try to like write pop tunes for a living. There was a major there. I actually had all of the papers like written out, ready to go to switch majors. And in that process, I switched trombone teachers for half of a semester, and because I had to finish out the year before I could switch. And that was kind of what brought me back, was going into my first lesson with Tim Albright, and instead of the previous vibe, which worked for so many students and works great for many students, which is just, you know, here's the piece, learn it, and we'll work on it, and I'll tell you how to, you know, what not to do, right? And then it was just kind of this mirror image, which was, what do you want to play, you know? And I'm like, maybe we could work on improvisation. Great, let's do that, you know? And then we start working on improvisation, and he's going, okay, well, let's work on the intonation of this. Let's work on like your tone quality here. Of course, we're working on all of the same things that we would work on with anything else, but it was just a different way to approach it, and maybe less what not to do and what to do, which is a really hard thing, and many teachers don't have that quality. It's just like lightning in a bottle, I think, for a teacher. But a way to, you know, if a student isn't getting it, you don't just say it again. You find a different way to say it. And so Tim would find 30 ways to say something until something clicked, and then the next time I would go back to that habit, he would remember the one that worked. It was just like, it was the perfect space for me. So yeah, and then from there, I thought I would play on Broadway, you know. I remember, I still have my notebook. I contacted every Broadway musician. There's a thing, it's like IMDb, but for Broadway, called IBDB. And it has the orchestra musicians listed for, you know, who opened the show. So I found every trombone player for every show in the past like 15, 20 years who opened a show, and sent them emails, Facebook messages, called them, literally just anything I could find. And I don't know, maybe out of 50, maybe 6 got back to me. One of them let me sit in on a show. This is my sophomore year of college. Let me sit in on a Broadway show. Actually, I did that a few times. Different people called me up, you know, literally never meeting them, never knowing them. I had 4 or 5 hour conversations on the phone with these people about what to do, you know, how to break into the industry, what I should be doing while I was in school. And a lot of them, the idea was kind of like, the mere fact that we're having this conversation means you're on the right track, you know. But that was hard to hear, because I'm like, well, then why am I not doing it, you know? But I mean, they were right. So yeah, Broadway was really that scene, and those are still a lot of my closest friends and colleagues are those people who play on that Broadway scene. They're just some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And then from there, yeah, that was kind of the transition into commercial music and getting a little bit more into that and doing these arrangements, you know. And you can kind of see that kind of turn a corner there from the you know, classical orchestral stuff to commercial, and starting to play into that. So yeah, that's where, you know,
I think it's important to highlight the fact that you knew to call, to contact, email, smoke signal, you know, I mean, whatever it took, right? You were doing it. And, you know, I think about young players these days, and it's like, well, I didn't email him, I didn't Facebook message, and I'm like, dude, you literally have the world at your fingertips. All you have to do is sit down at the computer, and you can contact so many people so quickly. It's like the excuses are gone.
Yeah.
You
and
know?
I don't really know what the goal was, right? Because you kind of go, well, I want to play on Broadway. How do I get there? There's no auditions, you know? So it was just kind of like, just how do I figure this out? And my teacher was playing on Broadway, and so he would let us sit in sometimes, cool stuff like that. But it's such a kind of amorphous industry. A lot of times there aren't auditions. It's who you know and all of that. And some of the advice I got was purely playing, and I have these awesome notes It's in this book, Also Sprach, Arnold Jacobs.
Oh yeah.
Great literature. And so I had that. I was reading that at the same time. And so actually, if I find that book, I know it's over in my bookcase. It still has all my notes from these phone calls, which are really funny because now I'm friends with these people. But this was my first time as like a college student.
Yeah.
But you know, Mike Davis, like all these people that they just pick up the phone, and if you have like a promising young player, they're going to give you all the advice you ever need.
Right.
But some of it was playing advice. Some of it, honestly, some of the best advice was just like, listen, if you move to New York and you're fun to be around, you will get all the work you ever need. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you have to be a good player. You don't
Absolutely.
have to be the best. You just have to be a good musician, show up, do what you said you were going to do, be on time, have a pencil for the person next to you, like that kind of stuff. Have your mutes. You know, if you ever can save somebody else, like if you have an extra mute or something, even, you know, just stuff like that. If you can save somebody else and have them look more professional because you saved them, you will never, you know, be hurting for work. So stuff like that, which it's like obvious kind of, but
but it's not.
It's a little counterproductive. It's a little like you do have a little rub where it's like, well, that's my competition. Like, oh, good, that person's unprepared, so now I look better.
Right.
But you know, the more you can help everybody around you, and so that was kind of really important advice. That was Mike Bostian gave me some of that advice, which was just like, you just got to be a good person that everybody wants to be around, and you can't afford not to ever be that, especially when you're starting out. So it was more the interpersonal stuff that I think made an impact on the rest of my career more than any of the playing advice or any of that, you know?
Well, and that's true, I think, everywhere. You know, they have, orchestras now have these trial weeks, you know, for the finalists. And I think it's as much, you know, to seeing if you gel playing-wise, but also to kind of find the vibe, see if this is somebody that you can get along with, right?
Yeah. Well,
and that's
important.
important.
I think about it a lot when I hire musicians now, right? Like, who would I want to hire? Is it somebody who I get along with and have a ton of fun when we're not playing, right? Or is it the musician who's maybe technically better, but really not fun to be around, you know? And at the end of the day, you're going to make better music with the musician that you get along with, right? So it's you think about it, and it's like, oh, I want to hire just the best people, and sometimes those people aren't going to get along, and the music you make because of it is not going to be as good.
Right.
So what's the goal? The goal is to make the best music, right? And so it's actually like, well, then hire the people that you get along with, this really cohesive group of people that is going to have fun when they're not playing, relaxed environment, you know, open communication on and off the horn to make suggestions musically, you know, try new things, all of that. It's only going to work if the interpersonal stuff is working. So, you know, and of course, you just want to hang out with your friends. So it's like there's that side of it too. And you know, I'm not the best trombone player on earth, not even close. And yet, I've been able to build this whole thing, and the only thing I can point to is like, people like to be around me. You know, like I have a personality that it works in this industry. And it's weird that is so important, but you know, I know I'm not the best trombone player, so why do I have this and other people don't? It's like, well, I'm good at other things, the marketing side and all of these other pieces of the puzzle. So it's really important to, I don't know, be humble about that stuff, I think.
Well, absolutely. And okay, so I don't want to lose this thought.
Sure.
Yeah, you're going into school at Purchase, thinking you want to go the orchestral route. When did you know, in high school, when did that occur to you as, this is what, I mean, were you listening to certain people? You were studying with somebody at that point in high school, right? Yeah,
like a local teacher. So the early schooling was interesting. So my siblings, all older, were taking piano lessons. So I started taking piano when I was 6 years old. You know, music was this kind of, I suppose, institutionalized music was always a part of my life. And I knew when I was in 7th grade that I wanted to have music be my career. So I knew way early.
Which 7th grade?
I mean, okay. So the thing about that now I've gone back and thought about is, like, I said a lot of stuff when I was in 7th grade. So, like, this one I just happened to be right about, but, like, it's selective, you know.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
yeah, technically, I did know that at the time. I could have been wrong. I just happened not to be. But yeah, seventh grade, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be a music teacher because I didn't know there was any other career in music. I really didn't, you know. I thought that was the only thing you could do, I guess specifically with my instrument. But so I thought I was going to be a music teacher, and then a little bit of the way through high school, I decided I might want to try performance, and that was, you know, I loved jazz, but I was not as proficient in it. I didn't think I could get into a conservatory doing it, and so I went the classical route. One of my teachers recommended Purchase, which is really not a huge name, because there's a few professors there that, you know, he knew of, and it was good. So I went and got a lesson with Weston. He kicked my butt. I said, that's what I need, you know. And I think my line of thinking you can understand, but I don't know that it was smart, which was, if I'm going to do this very, you know, reckless thing, which is try to get a degree in performance, first of all, I need my butt kicked, and second of all, I shouldn't really have a backup plan to that. Like, this is all or nothing. So I only applied to one school. It was basically this idea of like, if I can't get into the school I want, then I shouldn't be doing this, and I need to reassess.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't think that's smart, but I think it is, you know, something to consider, which is if you're not getting into that school that you want on this risky thing, you know, what are you doing? I don't know. It was really not smart, but it worked out.
Well, you know, it's interesting.
I had a backup plan at least, but.
Well, maybe a backup plan for another college or university to go to. But, you know, I've had a parent not long ago with one of my university students who said, you know, and this is, I'm learning about this through my student. Yeah, you know, my mom and dad say that I need to have math or accounting or something as a backup. And my thinking is kind of what you were saying. If you're not all in, you know, if you're thinking, I got to have a backup, you know, that kind of makes you wonder, are you really committed up front to this? And, absolutely. And I think, you know, unless you're willing to just, well, to not to be repetitive, but to go all in, you know, then you got to answer some serious questions. Maybe accounting should be my focus, and, you know, and music will be my relief, my sideline.
Yeah. Yeah, or combine them, you know. There's plenty of stuff that you could do out of business school, out of an accounting thing that, like, you can, I don't know, do musicians' taxes or something that, like, is specifically needed, right? That combines these two things. You have to understand the music industry to do that. It's so different than any other, you know, freelance industry, even, you know. So there's ways to combine those things, or work for, like, a big record label, as, you know. There are needs to combine those passions that you are uniquely suited for. For me, it's technology and marketing and sociology and computers and music, right? Nobody else that doesn't have all of those passions is going to love doing exactly what I do. There's parts of this job, the video editing, that is just like so monotonous and boring to anybody else, but I love it, and I love getting into the nitty-gritty of that. So you know, that's kind of this part of it that's like, you have to combine all those things to create this I don't know, unique space for yourself in the industry. But yeah, the all or nothing thing, it's tough. You really have to love it, but I don't know, and like, know that you're probably not going to make a ton of money doing it, but still do it, you know.
Right.
That's yeah, you kind of have to be okay with that from the beginning. And I've heard it said many more eloquently ways, but, like, you know, if there's anything else, the only reason you do music is because there's nothing else you could possibly do.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there's some validity to that. But yeah, I don't know. I think I could do any of the other passions that I talked about, marketing or all of those things.
Right.
And I think I would be very happy. But yeah, combining them all is, of course, the best. So
you've obviously found a niche. You found a combination of things that work. How'd you arrive at this point? Like, when did the
So I
marketing
was.
come in? When did all the electronics? I mean,
Mhm.
it wasn't all of a sudden, right?
No, no. I mean, the progression was I was in school studying classical music, and on the side I was arranging, and that had been happening all through, all through my schooling. Middle school, I was arranging. I remember the first one I did was Crazy Train for brass
Oh, yeah.
ensemble in my in seventh grade or something, sixth grade maybe. I think it was sixth grade. And of course, a sixth grader comes to their band director and says, "I arranged something for brass ensemble." They're going to play it, no matter how good or bad it is. So I'm sure it
Right.
was awful, but of course we played it, and that kind of encouragement just kept going because of course a student is that excited about something like that, you're going to continue to encourage it as a
Mm-hmm.
middle school or high school band director. So that encouragement pushed me through to keep arranging and getting better at it. And then in college, there's I don't know how they found me. I must have posted just something, and this group in Tasmania, this trombone quartet found me and had me arrange, like Beatles tunes for them. And so this was maybe my freshman sophomore year of undergrad, and they were paying me to make these arrangements, and so I would get my friends together and we'd record that, well, not record them, we'd just play them, and then I would make changes. And going through that a little bit, it got to the point where I wanted them to take it more seriously, but of course these are my friends and this is just for fun, this is my gig, not
Mm-hmm.
theirs. So I said, okay, I'll just record the parts myself. And those were the beginning YouTube videos, were these arrangements I was writing for this quartet that I just recorded the parts myself to see how they sounded. And
Mm-hmm.
the first video, there's no video, it's just the recording, a
Right.
picture of me, and that's it. From there I started arranging a little bit more, making a couple videos that went viral in MySpace, which is like 900 views. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And
Wait, MySpace. I'll have to put a footnote here for some people. They'll be like, "What the heck is MySpace?"
oh, no, in my world, yeah, no, this
Ah,
is
okay, okay,
after
okay,
MySpace, after
okay.
MySpace.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I was learning as I went, video editing, arranging, audio editing, all of the pieces of the puzzle I was practicing, really.
Right.
But and honing in those parts, even the Photoshop and thumbnail editing and kind of market testing, really, like titles and things that really matter to like YouTube algorithms and things. I was learning just by trying them and getting really into like how something is going to be received and perceived.
Mm-hmm.
If I say something on camera, the way I say it, and like all of the things, the sociology part of it, which is like, how is that going to be perceived by an audience, and how do I want it perceived, and how do I make sure that it's perceived the way I want it to be. That stuff just so interesting to me at the time, and still, but that's the kind of stuff I was getting into, and how the marketing started to seep into my life. Started reading books on like the power of habit and stuff, marketing strategies and things, and keeping my eyes on the prize of like authenticity, which I think I've done a decent job with throughout all of this, which like when you watch my videos, I don't think you get the vibe of like, oh, he's trying to sell me something, or like, okay, he's got his album and his lesson course, this is merch. Like there's a lot that I'm selling, but I hope it comes across as very authentic, like, yeah, if you want this stuff, it's there for you,
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Not like you have to do this unless or else you're not a good musician. There's
That's the way to do it, is to guilt everybody into buying something, right?
plenty of people do it and make a lot of money doing so, but
Right.
yeah, so I pride myself on having authentic ways to market the stuff that I do, and maybe I'm less popular and have less money because of it, but I can sleep at night, so yeah, so that's all the stuff that kind of got me through that period of my life. And then happy that video went viral my senior year. I mean, literally my last semester of undergrad. And that was an interesting time in my life because I had gotten into a master's program at Cal Arts for jazz. and like commercial music, studying under Alex Isles, Jim Miller. It was going to be a very interesting change into this other side of music that I was not familiar with and or proficient, and I was going to learn a lot, but then this video went viral, and it was literally like 2 weeks of this video going viral and them emailing me saying like, hey, we really need to know if you're gonna accept this coming to school here. And I had to make that decision, and I turned it down. They gave me all the scholarship money. It was a really hard decision, and instead I moved here to my tiny house in the middle of nowhere outside of New York City and made YouTube videos full time, understanding that it could crash and burn, and I only had like 8 months of rent saved up, but that was, I felt like I had to try, because if I went out to LA, I would have been broke instantly and had to take loans. And I got through all of undergrad, especially at the state school, and being an RA, working my way through school, that I didn't have any debt. And it just felt crazy to throw that away just then when I was trying to get started. So, yeah, it all kind of happened right at the right time, but very scary few months of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking it takes, you're awfully young to be so aware of everything. And it's just, it's pretty spectacular to listen to the story. It's like, here's somebody who's savvy and learning to become more savvy at what he's doing, and all the peripheral things that start to gather in. It's like you're talking about the technology and the marketing, and it's like you're making everything work for you here. And I think that's unique for sure.
Yeah, I mean, also being a one-man show makes it like you think about small companies who are able to like circumvent industry stuff because they're so small and can kind of work really fast. Being a one-person thing with, obviously I can't do as much, but if I just decide I want to do something, I go do it, and so that's allowed me to pivot the industry changing and YouTube algorithms and just trying all sorts of new things. Certainly they all haven't worked. I've tried different platforms. I try to stay on the forefront. If I see there's a platform people are using, especially younger kids who are my main audience, I try to make sure I at least understand it. I might not be able to make content for it regularly or anything like that, but I can't afford, at least right now, to be that person who's like, oh, there's another platform. I don't like, what is that? Which I get, like that's a serious thing that happens, and I'm just like, this is my whole world. I can't afford to do that right now. I have to be kind of on the forefront of that stuff. So I've made a concerted effort to make sure that I'm trying to do all that stuff. Yeah. But there's certainly platforms that I try that come out and they don't pick up, or things that I try to do, live streaming. I did Twitch streaming, things that like, yeah, okay, it's kind of fun, and I realize if I did this full time, if this is all I did, it could be wildly successful, but I need to focus on, the thing that's working, which is YouTube,
Yeah.
So there's definitely parts of this where it's like, okay, I understand it, and I know that I could be successful at it, but there's just not enough hours in the day.
Yeah. Did you try TikTok?
Yeah. I actually just had my first TikTok go viral like 2 weeks ago. It was very exciting.
Now, you can publish the same content on YouTube, right?
You can. So TikTok is, very short, maybe 60-second videos. So there's ways that kind of content usually does well on YouTube, which is like maybe aggregating a lot of them and saying, TikTok compilation, and you do 10 of them, and then it's a 10-minute long video or a little less, and people can watch all these back to back. That's how that content would be decent on YouTube. Now, Instagram has added Reels, which is just TikTok on Instagram, so you can cross post those kinds of things, which is good. But understanding how that stuff works, and it, I'm not immune to it. Like TikTok or Instagram added Reels maybe 2 weeks ago, and when that happens, you're like, now I have to understand this. But it's a gamble on their end, because they're kind of put out this new platform and push it really hard to make sure that it has engagement, and there's a big pushback from the users, which is like, we liked it the way it was. Now you're adding this, but understanding it is important, and being one of those early adopter actually makes it easier to push through because there's fewer people on that.
Right. So that hasn't replaced Instagram TV, right, or whatever the.
No. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's like Instagram, which is for pictures and short videos, and then there's Reels, which is literally the exact same platform and interface as TikTok. And then there's Instagram TV, which is those longer videos.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of seems like, why don't you just put it all together and just allow whatever you want? But
right.
I understand the engagement with it is different. So,
yeah.
How people are interacting with the content changes depending on the length of it. So,
yeah.
Interesting stuff. But yeah, it's just a matter of like, what's working and how can I replicate that? And so that's where YouTube has been just my bread and butter, because it's like, okay, I have enough data where I could say like, okay, I know what's working, and if I want a viral video, I know how to do that,
right?
And if I want to be creatively, emotionally stable, I know how to do that. They're different. I can do a big video game medley and it'll get a ton of views, it's good, but like there's a rhyme and reason to all of this stuff. So yeah.
So here's the burning question.
Okay.
Who convinced you to become Princess Leia?
I did it first years ago. I did it again for a collaboration with Jim Nova, but the first time, that was all me. I decided to do that. I had long hair, it was like, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, and so it was like, okay, what can I dress up as? And I also, I don't know, I'm really into sustainability, so buying a ton of costumes just for like a one-off video is really not my style. Even though of course it would be a much more engaging thing if I did. So I struggle a lot to find ways to make that happen, and Princess Leia was like, okay, I'll put a button-up shirt on backwards, like a white button-up, has that collar, looks good. And then I spent 8 hours on YouTube tutorials trying to get my hair right.
Oh.
It took forever. It's funny. The first one, it was the first or second try, and it looked so good. And then the other side, just making it match, took like hours and hours.
Right.
And hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel for people who do those like makeup tutorials and stuff.
Yeah, but it worked. I mean, obviously that visual that was terrific.
Yeah, I mean those kind of stark, and really it comes down to the thumbnails. I like to say I make thumbnails for a living, and there just happens to be YouTube videos attached to them, because if nobody clicks on the thumbnail, it doesn't matter how good the video is,
Right.
It just doesn't. And the title, I've kind of gotten into this groove. There's a couple of my friends who are now YouTubers as well, and we have nerdy conversations about YouTube algorithms, but one thing being like watch time. So if somebody watches a little bit of the video, it's less promoted, but if you watch a long length, and so if you'll notice like my more recent videos, they're like this song, except it gets more complex each verse, right? So it means you have to watch to the end. And of course, you're incentivized to keep watching. Oh, it's getting more complex, or it gets funkier each every eight bars. That kind of stuff that just like it draws you in and keeps your attention. Of course, it's creatively a different problem to solve. Of like, how do I add something? How do I make this more interesting as it goes?
Right.
It's a fun problem, and it's been keeping it a lot more interesting for me, because I used to just do pop covers, and it's just the cover, and it's more of a science than an art form. Just it's like a transcription, really. Really fun. I love doing it, but most of these tunes you could literally play the actual song and my arrangement, and front, like beginning to end, they'll line up exactly same key, same, like every inflection of the voice. I try to keep them very, very similar. And so this has added a creative element that I've enjoyed, but also that marketing aspect of like, how do you keep somebody's attention throughout a video? But so those marketing conversations, or YouTube algorithm conversations of like, how do you keep somebody's attention and get them to click on that video?
Right.
Because once they do, your job's done. Once they watch that ad, you're good.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about, well, the first video that popped into my head was a Pentatonics video.
Sure.
And we're talking like they've got their label and millions of dollars backing, and it's a very high production value budget. And it's like you've got to accomplish the same thing, scaled down quite a bit, but you still are effective. I mean, to me, it just goes to show you that you don't have to spend. I mean, if you do it right, you don't have to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, and there's YouTube kind of has this. It's split in its like mission statement, I guess I would say. Like at the beginning, it was people in their basements just like making funny videos, no money involved. It was just that, and that vibe is still there. It still exists, and it still is popularized. There's certainly videos that, without that aesthetic of I just filmed this on my phone, the video goes away. Like the charm of it is gone. Because then it's like, oh, you had a team of people and a lighting crew, and like, this obviously isn't you just turning on your camera and like catching a funny moment. So it's no longer interesting to watch. It seems, it's staged. But then you also have like Jimmy Fallon being one of the most popular people on YouTube with the whole production value. So you have the commercialized version of it, but the underground stuff is still there. So it's kind of interesting to think about where you're trying to place that. So if my production value goes up, the people will give me less less rope. Like it has to be perfect.
Yeah, right.
And if the production value is low quality, then all of a sudden you kind of get this creative freedom a little bit more, I think. But of course, you want to look at a crystal clear video too. So and have the audio sound really good. So yeah, it's definitely playing that game of like, how much production value is it to know that like, well, first of all, it's only me. I don't have a video production crew. I'm editing all my videos myself still. All of this, it's just me. So as long as people can understand that still, then any video editing I do that's really cool, all of a sudden I get all the credit for that. But if you go up to that next step, then it's like, oh, wow, like, okay, you got editors. Cool. No, it's good,
Right.
It's more engaging for sure, but now we're on to that next level of, like, commercialization of it.
Right.
Which is not a bad thing. It's certainly just the next step in the progression, but, it changes things for sure.
Yeah. So what happens if YouTube goes away?
I think about that less now, but... often as I was starting the first 5-6 years, it's very clear that it could go away any day, just as fast as it came. It's only been around for a decade. So,
and isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
To think that it's gone. And I think I just saw they moved the Google podcast, or Google Music now is YouTube Music. Yeah. They just migrated all that.
Yep. Yeah. Google Music will be discontinued by I think the end of the year or something. Yeah. But so it's definitely something we think about as creators. Less about will YouTube go away, and more about just the tweaking of the algorithm. So a great example of this is 3 or 4 years ago, probably less than that, but certainly 3 or 4 years ago, if you went to YouTube, the thing you would see is all of the people you subscribe to and their most recent videos. That's, if you went to youtube.com, that's what you would see. Now that's not what you see. And so people will be subscribed to me or whoever, and they might not necessarily ever see their videos. Right? And that little tweak made people stay on YouTube so much longer. So for YouTube as a whole, it's much, much better, because usually you would go to YouTube, okay, I watched all the videos that I'm subscribed to, I watched all the new ones, and then you leave. Well, now when you go to YouTube, it's only videos that are recommended to you, and they're always changing. So you'll never see a video that you already saw, and you stay on it much longer. So again, for YouTube, it's much better, but for the creators, all of a sudden it disconnected them from their audience who subscribed to them. And, that all of a sudden all these creators saw this huge drop. And that's why it's like, click the bell notification to like make sure, now all of a sudden we have to say that too. So those kinds of changes definitely make us nervous as creators, because that little tweak it's like the AI thing where it's like, oh yeah, this is good for the whole, but for the individuals, it could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
If the algorithm just decides that, you know, people aren't engaging with your content the way it wants to. So, yeah, I think about that a little bit more now than YouTube going away. But either way, that's why you build like mailing lists and stuff. Like you kind of have to get off the platform. That's like the very first step of marketing, and it feels silly because emails are so kind of old-fashioned now, but it's the only way to actually make sure that you have control of your audience, and can contact them. Because yeah, I have almost 300,000 subscribers, and I can reach maybe 5,000 of them if I really want to, you know? Like if I need to reach them, I can probably reach 5,000 for sure. And if I have a video that does well, maybe it's 10 or 20, 30, 40,000, but that's still out of 300,000. And so it's tough to know that you've built this audience and you can't even talk to them. You can't even get through to them if you wanted to. But yeah, that's kind of the name of the game there, is like trying to pull out the really dedicated audience out of that. And so for me, like I said, it's maybe that 5,000 people, which is great, because that means like, okay, I sell an album for $10 a pop and 5,000 people buy it. I'm doing okay, you know? Like,
yes, yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be fine, right? But it's making sure you can actually reach those dedicated fans that will buy everything you do everything, you know, follow you anywhere you go, any platform you're on. That's way more important than the 300,000, which makes headlines. You know, most subscribed, you know, trombonist on YouTube or brass musician on YouTube. That makes the headlines, but that doesn't pay the bills. What pays the bills are those really dedicated, not even the 5,000, the 300 Patreon donors. Like that's what actually has allowed me to do this for a living. Those 300 super dedicated people who are like, I will pay you, you know, $10 a month because I love this stuff so much. Yeah. That's what actually makes this possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I got to do is, you know, build my Patreon. It was a conversation we first had.
That's right.
You know, I was talking about that sort of thing, but I'm not going to turn this into a consultation right now.
No, but anybody listening to this, make sure you go on Patreon and
yeah, subscribe to both of us.
That's right. Sure, split it. I'll split whatever you were going to give to me. Split it half and half, and go to both of us.
So, you know, you mentioned Jim Nova earlier, and I think there's so many great people out there, so talented, and I think it was his arrangement of Star Wars that you played. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. It wasn't the main theme, but yeah, we did one of his arrangements for sure.
Oh, Imperial March, right?
Imperial March, that's right.
Yeah. But you know, it's cool to see. I wouldn't have seen this unless I had attended, you know, ITF, what it was 2 years ago in Muncie, or I wouldn't have seen it had I gone to wherever Jim is, and you know, whatever trombone ensemble, you know. So YouTube was great for that. And you know, and I can't remember his name. You've probably seen this kid, horn player, like 20-some years old. Stuart or Spencer, something like that. But this kid's ridiculous. But he's doing what you and Jim and these others are doing. You know, he's not got the marketing side of things down yet. But he's recording, you know, up to like 8 horn parts, and you know, and so you know, I mention this because it's like now you've become an inspiration, obviously, for so many others, you know, who are out there trying to do this sort of thing. Lucky Chops, you know, might have been one of the first ones I'd seen, but I haven't seen anything from them recently.
Oh, they're around.
They're still around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they've got a tuba player who's a friend of mine. Yeah, they're still they've been doing actually these like international tours up until the shutdown. So yeah, they're definitely still around. They're doing great, actually.
Yeah. So what's a big project laying ahead of you right now?
I've been a full-time video editor for the past 6 months. It's been kind of crazy. So shutdown happened, and when is this coming out? Is this 2024?
No, it won't be that late. It won't be that late.
So back in the year 2020, yeah. So I started, doing this freelance video editing for groups that obviously couldn't come together in person, and I've been doing that nonstop. And I kind of got fried, a little burnt out, and I had to stop accepting new clients for a little bit. And so, of course, there's a delay of when you accept the client to when they actually record their parts and send it in and you have to edit. So I stopped accepting clients maybe a month and a half ago, and I'm getting to the end of that queue of actually finishing the last few projects this week and next. So for the first time in a long time since January, I will actually have like a full week to work on a YouTube video.
Wow.
So I'm very, very excited to actually get that time back to focus on my creative pursuits. So, I mean, I have an album that I've been working on for about a year. I don't know that we're going to be able to get it out in time for the fall, but if not, you'll hear stuff about it. I also have a big video game medley that I've been saying that I would do for years, literal years. And so I'll finally have time to finish that. I started arranging it and posted a video on like Instagram of me doing it, and that was just before the shutdown. So I was like, no, that's not happening anymore. And then some really cool collaborations that I kind of have in the works of virtual folks. I'm writing a piece called the 4 Horsewomen of the Apocalypse.
Really?
For these amazing young female trombonists from all over the world, Ukraine, Russia, Italy, UK, one's down in Texas, so they're high school age. I think they're all under 18. And they're just like, I've seen them posting stuff on Instagram. I'm like, these people are better than me. What's going on? Like, and I mean, the girl from the UK posts these transcriptions of like ridiculous jazz trombone. I'm like, oh man. So I reached out to them, and I'm writing a piece for them. I don't know if I've said that publicly yet, so that's an exclusive. But So
I can trim that out if you need me to.
No, it's great. It'll force me to actually do it.
In that case, this is coming out next week.
Okay, yeah. So those kinds of projects, more creative focused, I'm very excited about. Once these video editing projects kind of eclipse a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I've had one day that I haven't had to focus on the video editing since March 15th.
Wow.
Yeah. And those have been awesome, honestly. I mean, they pay well and they're really fun. I worked with the Chicago Symphony for their civic orchestra. The youth orchestras in Chicago, National Medical Orchestra. Like, it's been great. Grad school, the American Band College. Like, it's been really incredible to work with all these groups and composers, and it's been awesome. But it's also 12-hour days and stuff, so you gotta take a little break sometimes. So it'll be fun to focus back on the YouTube stuff and be a little bit more creative with that than I've been, because it's been, I get to the end of the week and it's like, okay, gotta get a video out, here we go. 2 days to put something really creative out, and I don't know, there's nothing worse than knowing what I would do with something if I had another couple of days to work on it, and knowing that I just don't have the time. So it'll be really nice to get back to that and maybe go outside. I don't know.
You might be one of the youngest people I talk to. Which is crazy.
It's getting a little less weird now, pushing on 30. It's like, okay, it's better. But when I started, it was like I was 22. Like 20, it's like I don't know anything yet. Like I don't. Yeah. I still kind of feel like that, but at least I know my space, and I know my boundaries. I know what else is out there. If we're talking about YouTube, like I feel comfortable saying like, yes, I know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
But at the beginning it was very, especially in the educational space. I there was a time, the summer or two after I graduated undergrad, that I was teaching. Marcus Rojas, you ever run into him?
Mm-mm.
Tuba player in New York, great guy, and he invited me to come talk at his NYU summer brass workshop. And I go in there, and there were 3 kids that were in undergrad with me, older than me.
Wow.
Like they graduated before me, and now I was teaching this class to people who I went to school with who were older than me. I was just like, oh, this is weird, you know, like, what do I know? What do I know? Yeah, it's getting a little easier just knowing, like, knowing my boundaries, and and honestly just learning from everybody who I come into contact with. Like, that's been the best part about this, is having the platform lets me have conversations like this and meet tons of people that I can learn from.
It's funny you say that, because I've told, I don't know how many people I've interviewed, I said, I feel like I just got a private lesson, you know, talking to these legends. And I'm like, you know, and I don't have to take notes because I'm recording everything, right? But you know, so I go back, and when I edit, and then I start taking notes. Okay, oh yeah, that was brilliant, you know.
No, that's exactly what it feels like. Just like, especially at the big conferences, Midwest Clinic, and you know, you end up just being in the same room as all these people, and it takes away the hardest part about those interactions, which is the introduction. You know, that my platform has taken that away. And I remember the first time it happened at the Trombone Festival, and must have been 2014. I was still in school, you know, just had graduated like a couple weeks before. And these legends are coming up to me like, oh, the guy from the Happy video,
right?
You know. And it's like, because it was that same, you know, months before when that came out. So it taking away that introduction, it changes everything, you know, because somebody comes up to you, you're like, all right, who are you? What do you want? What do you, you know, like that, it just happens, especially at those festivals. So honestly, that's been the best part about all of this, is just, it takes away that introduction, you know. So I went up to, I was trying to make a video at ITF at Juilliard, and I went down to the floor where everybody, you know, all the instruments were set up, and I ran into Tom Bones Malone, the Late Show, and I was like, hey, do you want to come like blow on a funk tune upstairs for a video? He goes, yeah, okay. He comes up, he plays, sounds great. Like, okay, I'll let you know when it comes out. And then I sent him the email with the video, and he sent one back. He goes, oh, I know who you are. Like, you're the guy from the Happy video. I was like, that whole time you didn't know who I was?
He had no idea.
Didn't matter. He was like, yeah, sure, I'll go play on like that kind of like extra level of like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? Some kid comes up to you, and so that, I mean, that's an extra level of nice. But I definitely have seen that, especially in the commercial world. I mean, like I said, you don't get those jobs unless you're fun to be around. So you kind of weed out the ones that aren't, just because they're not getting called. I don't know if the trumpet world's like that, but
no. I mean, it's great. You know, it's a very cool vibe in the trumpet world, and you know, everybody thinks about trumpet players and their egos, and there are some,
right?
But for the most part, you know, it's a great community.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I think of people like Tony Cadillac and different New York players that are just like the Swiss Army knife of musician. It's just like, they're going to show up, they're going to do it, they're going to be fun to be around, they're going to be great. And that's it. That's all you need.
Well,
cool.
Thanks again.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate it.
Anything else, just let me know.
Yeah, it won't be 2024 when this comes out, by the way. It'd be a lot sooner than that, but I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted on it.
Had to give you a hard time.
All right. All right. Take care. Stay healthy, please.
Yeah, you too. All right.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.